president struggling on several fronts going into what is the midterm high season. The war has increasingly been described as a strategic loss, even by Trump's allies and those who do view Iran as a threat worth countering. They just say Trump has bungled this. Trump's approval rating, relatedly, has now dropped to its lowest level of this term. And so this is an obvious problem for both the presidency of Donald Trump and his Republican Party, all these problems on all these fronts, and yet Trump appears to increasingly just turn to comfort and personal distraction rather than trying to actually govern on this or even do messaging events at the very minimum. So he is back to his sort of what some have called his sort of first lady vibes of decorating. He's torn up the White House grounds for projects. More widely, he's tried to remodel and remake Washington in his image, often to a degree that has even judges curtailing, limiting, or sometimes blocking what are illegal efforts to rush this. With the White House grounds, if he'd worked with Congress, he'd be okay. But he refused to do that on many of these issues. The AP writes Trump is playing White House tour guide.
All of these letters are hand-carved and put into the Blackstone. This grass will look so beautiful. They said to me, sir, we'd like to replace the grass at the White House with the highest quality grass and do a real job. This is a great pole. This is the top of the line. It's tapered. This isn't a straight up and down job, which looks terrible, frankly. That's a tapered pole. Great. I'm very good at flagpoles.
He may indeed be good at flagpoles, whatever that exactly means, but this is more than bizarre when you think about all the other work left undone. And perhaps it is just easier to plaster gold leaf inside of one single room than govern the whole country or try to rebalance a foreign policy on the whole world that has, of course, not worked. Many of the big scoops on some of these issues were first broken in the best-selling book Regime Change, which I happen to know many of our viewers have read the book. It's been on the bestseller list, but across the entire news media, this book by Maggie Haberman, who's standing by, and her co-author Jonathan Swan, continues to kick up revelations that range from the serious, the significant, the historic, to sometimes the odd or petty. That's the nature of covering this White House. It has been indispensable to understanding the different second-term Trump presidency.
Was in a series of Situation Room meetings, trying to figure out how to handle the crisis over their boss being in the Epstein files.
Quote, behind the scenes, the Epstein crisis was paralyzing the Trump administration to a far greater extent than the public knew.
Hitler, Mao, Stalin, these leaders maintain power through fear, he said. Who would ever do a thing like that, right?
Caroline Levitt once walked into the Oval Office only to find the president, quote, clutching a tube of super glue and attempting to affix gold decorations to the marble fireplace mantle.
The sight of the president squeezing glue onto gilded appliques and mounting them on the wall himself surprised no one in his inner circle.
Do you have a cell phone number?
Yes, I have a cell phone number.
Can we call him right now?
Let's not.
That's just some of what has been uncorked from that book. You know, around here we would tell you it's great if you get some of your news and information by watching the news. But as you see in just that small set of news clips we put together lately, whatever news channel you watch, you are probably also watching some of what was reported out in that aforementioned book by the New York Times' Maggie Haberman, who is our leadoff guest tonight. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We set the table for the U.S. economy to take off like a rocket. If you look at it, we were doing that the first quarter of this year, and then we got into this conflict with Iran.
I would say that's a pretty big exception to make, Maggie, when you have the Trump's allies or other Republicans claiming, well, if we didn't start this war, it'd be different.
Right.
But we did, and now we're well half a year into it, no?
Yeah, and it's one of the remarkable factors about this term, Ari, that, again, something we focus on, as you said earlier, about how different this term is than term one. This term, Trump's control over the Republican Party, is really complete. I know we've been talking for the last several days about how his winning streak in these primaries has gone down, and it has. But when you have remade the entire Republican Party so that every candidate is a shade of Trump and it can be pretty indistinguishable, I don't quite know what it says about the future of his power or his movement. Mike Johnson acts as if he is a wing of the executive branch. And he's not. And so having him say, well, if we hadn't gone into Iran, I don't know what other message House Republicans have to run on right now, because they're not getting a ton of instruction on the record that they should be running on, other than fear of Democrats.
President Trump has made it clear his favorite aide in the White House this second term is Natalie Harp. And she has been known for some of what she does, including playing a role in the president's social media. Some around the White House call her the human printer, as she works out what he wants to say or review how his tweets and posts are doing. Democrat Jon Ossoff ignited the kind of current firestorm by going at this whole issue by name-checking the president's aide, and others have been responding.
It's been amazing to watch this White House melt down over this all week. And whether it's Natalie Harp printing out Donald Trump's daily dose of delusion and flattery,
lavishing him with praise and feeding him positive tweets and news articles to boost his ego.
You got to realize it's time to hang up your wig and let Natalie tuck you in.
And I think that's why he keeps her so close, is because she is this a sycophant who is so obsessed with him that it alarms Secret Service.
No one cares about their feelings.
We are back with the New York Times' Maggie Haberman, co-author of Regime Change. So what matters about this story? You've covered this in the book. You've written recent articles in the New York Times. What does it tell us about where Donald Trump is at?
So a couple of things. Jon Ossoff obviously got a reaction. He's very good at the attention economy. I believe the senator knew what he was doing when he threw that line out. Not getting into what he said, that goes beyond our reporting. Our reporting is clear in the book, but they bit in the White House. They elevated this in many respects by circling the wagons, by focusing on this, by actually saying something far more explicit than what the senator said. And this has now become a multi-day story. Natalie Harp is significant because she is the person who is in most of the meetings with the president. She is the person who helps put out his tweets. She works on them with him. She has large control over his social media feed. And yes, she does produce an amount of positive information for him. This is why she was called the human printer. It wasn't just that she was printing out things to sign off on for him. And I want to make a point here, Ari. The people who have been critical of Natalie Harp are really people who have worked with her in Trump's orbit for a very, very long time.